Alright, so I started off with an LT1000, pretty standard yard tractor. The first thing I did was I made the hitch tongue. I started off with the square tubing here and I welded it directly to the spindle. This is not the most ideal setup. I've put this thing through a lot of stress in the number of years I've owned it. You can see I've got some extra clearance there that has developed over the years of abuse, and I got a cracked weld in there. It's about once a season I have to re-weld one of the spots on here. I welded, got a plate in there, welded in for some gusseting, and that still wasn't enough, and so I added this bolt here underneath as a gusset, and I've had each of those break. Ideally, for a second version, I'd like to actually come off of the frame and maybe have a bar coming off of the frame straight out, and then the hitch tongue can be mounted to that and pivot on its own and a drag link back like a regular wagon. Another nice feature would be if I could make that so that that arm would pivot like a pair of parallel arms. I could have it come out the one way, and then if the need arose and I wanted the mower on the opposite side, I could swing the arms around and it'd be on the other side behind the tractor, much like how a swather, you can go from one side to the other so you're not driving over your grass that you've already cut. On the mower itself, front axle, other than adding the hitch tongue, it's still factory. The rear axle, I took a second front axle off of another Craftsman chassis, and it's flipped around. You can see this is the left spindle, because it's normally where the steering gear runs from, the left side. And then I eyeballed it relatively to where the rear axle would normally sit. These are the holes for the plate for the transaxle. So I really only had to drill, I'm using one of the original holes, so I really only had to drill a couple more. And I took the pivot bracket from the front of the frame. It's a later model where it's bolted in, and then I welded the axle solid to it so it doesn't pivot. And then for the steering box, we'll get underneath here. So here's the steering arm off the steering box, and of course here's where it goes to the front axle. And so all I did was I welded on a piece of plate, and I drilled two holes in it. The one hole's doing the front, or the original bolt goes through, and then the second one here, it obviously goes to the back. So then all that happens is, you turn and you pull on the front, so then the linkage works all the way back, and that's how the rear end steers. And turns out, I suppose my angle or some torsion or just the slop in these ball joints wasn't quite right, and so my rear linkage here, it kind of sat like this. And what happened was, after the couple of years of using it, the ball joint actually came off. It just fell off. So I got this bungee cord sitting in here, and it's keeping it twisted this way, and it's actually been holding it in place for the time being until I maybe make a new one or make a new mower or something. But that's basically how the steering system works on this thing. It's pretty simple. Yeah, it's been real handy. Like my theory behind it was, this thing will just trail right behind you. You don't have to worry about cutting a corner too short or any too wide, or having it drag behind you. It's still going to be to the inside of you, but it's like right behind you. It's been really nice. It's been real great for trimming around trees and stuff. You don't have to make like a 3-point turn and stuff. But yeah, the one downside is with the orientation of this hitch tongue. It is a bit of a pain in the butt to back up, because when when you back up, you're of course pushing somewhat at an angle, and it's going to want to try to steer on you. So it's something really to watch out for. But that's about it. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Bye.